One, two, three. It's July 10th, Jim Grant. It's July 10th, and we're doing the extra show, the Ghislaine mask extravaganza. It's the first time that we've done the added show in the week on the cruise, but we figured with so much going on regarding those two subjects that we'd better find out exactly what. And there ain't no man better to do that than Mr. Jim Grant. Tell us all about it, Jim.
Well, I could probably think of a couple of people better than I to investigate this story. One of them being Barr, the district, the
Yes.
Trump's chief guy. But failing that,
Or the younger.
I'm a close second.
Yeah.
So here's what we've got coming up on today's extra show, the cruise. You can call it either cruise special 1 or cruise 15 and a half. It's up to you.
15A.
The
I
show,
was calling it, I was calling it 15A, but yeah. 15 and a half. Perfect.
15 and a half, or 15A, and it's called Ghislaine Maxwell and Other Falling Masks.
The jizzer.
Yes. We're going to be looking at the whole Ghislaine Maxwell falling into the Epstein and all that kind of stuff, and who Epstein comes into contact with, all from mainstream sources, as we always do here on Cruise. And the second part of the show will be looking at the mask evidence, where pretty much most of the people in the world went, who were medical officers, including our own chief medical officer here in Britain, went, no, don't wear them. And now suddenly, you've got to. No, don't wear them. They're bad for you. Now you've got to wear them.
You got the memo.
So
downtown.
Let's start with our article from Thursday, the 2nd of June, where it all decided to do this special on, because we should have covered it on our normal cruise episode, but as ever, myself and Craig, we were distracted by.
We saw a piece of fluff and ended up doing a 40-minute set on it.
Yeah, pretty much. So, Ghislaine Maxwell arrest. Jeffrey Epstein associate charged by FBI.
Associate. I love the different determiners that they've thrown in there. The what else have I seen? There's so many that they've used to define her relationship with Epstein. Friend, but associate's perfect. It's like, come on.
Well, we'd like to point out
the gal who helped bang teenagers, essentially. When you hear, well, I'm sure we will hear in this episode all the assaults that she herself is responsible for. It's ridiculous. It's nearly, well, I can understand it's the press, so I guess they don't want to go too hard on a pejorative to paint the suspect before a trial, but I think associates being erring on the side of caution with a beast of a woman in the eyes of the women that the other now women that she's abused. So that's the press.
Well, I'm a liberty-loving libertarian, so this woman deserves her day in court. So this is all alleged until she's been put before a jury of her peers and found guilty. However, we will be looking at the evidence that we're suggesting. But, I know my opinion on what I think the verdict's going to be. But we should point out, until she has been found guilty in a court of law, these are all allegations and innocent till proven guilty. I'm a firm believer in that. For my worst of enemies, everyone deserves. You've got to give your day in court and justice and due process to the worst.
Don't quite day in court with justice, Jim Grant. We're still talking. We're still talking about the modern justice system, which anywhere in the world you can poke holes, drive trucks through the holes. Sure. But yes, in a perfect world, justice and your day in court, we all deserve that.
We all deserve that. Even an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. However, I'd like to point out that Epstein, although he passed away, shall we say, before the trial, and we'll be looking into that on this show as well, he was actually found guilty in was it 2016, or he's a convicted paedophile. So
no, he wasn't found guilty. He confessed. He was admitted. Yeah. That's I always like to make that specification, because because people like to, to think that he's accused often, or that's like when we get further on in the episode, as we spoke before, of those who are incriminated by their relationship with Epstein. It's not just that they're incriminated by the relationship with somebody who was convicted. You're dealing with somebody who confessed to have himself put on the sex offenders register. So, to me, there's a different threshold there, Jim, as far as like, if you're willing to get yourself out of hot water by admitting, one of the most heinous things that you could ever be accused of as a human, you're pretty deeply ensconced in the scum category, as far as I'm concerned. But then, he still managed to get dinner dates after that, didn't he, for years and years? So sorry to interrupt. Go on.
No, I just wanted to point out that it's not alleged with Epstein, even though he met with an accident before the second trial.
He wasn't framed.
So the man has previous, shall we say, on that one. Yeah. So Jeffrey Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, has been charged by the FBI with multiple counts of sex exploitation and abuse of minor girls. The British socialite and heiress was a confidant to the disgraced financier. She later faced accusations of her own involvement in his sex crimes. Her arrest comes just a few days before the anniversary of Epstein's arrest last year on sex trafficking charges, which alleged he exploited and transferred underage girls between New York and Florida. Epstein, 66, later killed himself in federal prison, according to the medical examiner.
According to the medical examiner, not the coroner. You figured that out for yourself.
Yeah.
Figure out the difference between those two. Oh my God, there's a suspicious death. Quick, send in the medical examiner. and then give it to the coroner once the body's completely compromised, like they've done now with the George Floyd trial. Once you've turned it to hamburger, then get it onto the public coroner. But before that, make sure that your people turn it to mince. Christ, we live in hell, Jim. That's why I say there's no justice just because there's court.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up a nice link to just go over that, because that was something that I'd left out from from the archive that I've been brought up today. That
when you open the Epstein crypt for this episode,
I just wanted to fight.
The bats fly. Oh gosh.
So yes, I just want to bring up an article there just to back up what you're saying that in live time. So this is the New York Times. Epstein's autopsy points to homicide. Pathologist hired by brother claims. So there you go. And if you want to see all these articles for yourself, they will, as ever, be either in the description or the comment section of this video, and hopefully they'll actually be in order of which we go through them. So our next article. So I just wanted to point out and back up what Craig was saying there. I should probably leave that DuckDuckGo page up there, because I've got a feeling we're going to be going off at some tangents and looking at some things today. And I want to make certain there's no tinfoil hat theories here. It's all mainstream news, and we just wanted to put it together in one little parcel to go, here's a little piece of the puzzle that was ripped out a couple of months, and then a couple of months later is this one, a couple of months later. Put all the pieces of the puzzle together, it's actually quite clear. But on their own, as they're drip fed over the course of a year, it might not have an impact. But hopefully this will do something different.
Hit you like a mallet.
Yeah. They're playing whack-a-mole with the truth, aren't they? Quick, get rid of that little bit of truth. Quick, get that's not popped out there. That makes us look bad. Whack that one.
Back in the cave.
Yeah.
Can't have no truth here on the front pages.
Yeah. So this is the New York Post by July the 2nd by Maureen Callahan. Powerful men are scared about what Ghislaine Maxwell will say. Jeffrey Epstein's victims have another shot at justice. Here's hoping they get it. Ghislaine Maxwell, the alleged child sex trafficker and abuser in league with Epstein, was finally arrested Thursday morning. The only question is,
sorry, Jim. It's literally it's astonishing that in context of what's already known about this and the surrounding elements of this story, that she would specify that it's only powerful men that would be shaking in their boots regarding this, because there's glaring, powerful female elephants in the room that are very much known surrounding the case, and it almost strikes me as intentional that she would focus on the men that feel under threat by this. You're already dealing with the fact that the principal accused is a female. Like, we've already crossed the threshold that women can be beasts. It's epitomized by the fact that the focal point of this story is a woman, Ghislaine. The idea that like powerful men are going to be shaken in their boots, like, yes, as well they will be. It's cheek, to say the least, with what is known in the public domain about this case, to focus only on men shaking in their boots, because if there's any reason to believe that right now Ghislaine's life is in danger, it's because of her tangential relationship to Trump.
I'll say this on the whole Trump thing. It concerned me that Barr went, Epstein killed himself, nothing to see here. That concerned me.
Well, I think I'd be more concerned by the fact that his dad hired Epstein without any credits to teach calculus at the Dalton School in New York. I think that's probably a more compromising direct relationship that Epstein had with the Barr family directly, and the fact that Barr didn't recuse himself from the case to begin with because of that relationship that his father had. Like, say what you want,
I've
Jim,
got to duck go this.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the rabbit hole that you're in. So that's the relationship. William Barr, Bill Barr's dad, hired Mr. Epstein in entirely not even secretive, suspicious circumstances. People were suspicious because suddenly this guy who was barely older than the students he spent a lot of time at, and eventually was asked to leave a number of their social events from. So you got like a 22-year-old Epstein, kibitzing around with 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old girls that he was teaching without any credit to do so, without any credit, without any teaching credits of any nature. I believe it was math and either physics. I think it was physics and calculus. So math and physics, which is incredible in its own way. In some way, it substantiates the belief that Epstein was particularly academically capable, but he wasn't academically credible. So you've got some strange guy, Jim, who's been like asked to teach calculus at a fairly prestigious school, the Dalton School in New York, with exactly as many credentials as you and I have put together to be able to do so. And then how many years later, the guy who hired him's son is then not only in charge of his case, but is in charge of the correctional facility, the Met, where he ends up killing himself, or as we probably more lean towards the pathologist that thought he'd been murdered. But regardless, you've got the son of somebody who knows this person intimately, or on some level knew him intimately, and then suddenly he's in charge of the security apparatus surrounding the man's life, who eventually died under suspicious circumstances. So you couldn't get any more compromised than that.
So I've got a Forbes article backing up everything you just said about that connection there.
Oh.
U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr will not recuse himself in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking conspiracy case, despite Barr's previous assurance he would, given Barr worked at a law firm that represented Epstein, as well as a family connection between the two men stretching back decades. Barr has said he will recuse himself from a probe of Secretary of Labour Alexander Acosta's role in Epstein's 2008 highly controversial Florida plea deal, where Acosta served as US attorney. The plea deal was ruled unconstitutional in February by a federal judge. Barr made the decision after consulting with ethics officials at the Justice Department, according to Bloomberg. Former FBI Assistant Director Frank Figliuzzi tweeted Sunday that, you know what I'm like with names, that Barr's father hired Epstein in the 70s to teach mathematics at Manhattan's prestigious Dalton School, and Barr previously worked for Kirkland and Ellis, a law firm that represented Epstein during the Florida investigation. Epstein was indicted Monday in New York on 2 counts of sex trafficking and conspiracy and will face up to 45 years in prison if convicted. And that is an article from the 9th of July 2019, and we all know what happened after that.
Yeah, so it's quite obvious that William Barr, the younger, had no business being anywhere near the Epstein case, and let alone being in any way around the security apparatus that was there to keep your future accused in court alive. So it's just like the fix is in, huh? It's funny how often you don't hear about this in mainstream news, Jim. It's just the red flags are pretty obvious.
Well, that's why I like to do the cruise podcast, because we only read out, I only read out mainstream sources. You like to go a little bit further. Like I said, no need to put my door through Secret Service. I stick only to what I can prove on the mainstream.
They'll come through the ceiling, Jim. You'll never know. Come on.
I feel like that episode from Bottomman at the end of it. But what I'm saying is, this is Forbes. This is a mainstream publication, and it's all of this stuff is admitted in the mainstream publication. They just go, there's a little fact we'll just drip out here. Don't worry about that. Don't pay much attention to it. We won't put it on any television or anything like that. And that's what sort of stopped me watching the mainstream. I haven't watched any mainstream news in years, apart from
I do if I'm in if I'm in a hotel lobby or something. I will, Tim.
It just you go and watch these TV stuff, and you just look at it, and you can just actually do an internet search, and you can get Guardian, Independent, Forbes here, just saying pretty much exactly the opposite of what the TV tells you. So there's almost like 2 mainstream news versions of it. There's the TV version, and then there's the we put this little published out here in drips and drabs, admitting the actual truth over the years, and we just put it out there to say, there you go, we've done it, and when we never give it any coverage or anything like that. And that's something that I'll have to DuckDuckGo as well, is that news article of that woman saying we had him but we just didn't bother. That's something that I'll bring up. But in the meantime, we were looking at some of these powerful men, and Craig made a point of not just be that gender as well. So who might
be shaking in their big boots.
So here's an article from The Express, not the most credible of mainstream sources, but hey, I mean, it's not tinfoil hat Bob swears blind, is it? So this is by Simon Osborne. This is from The Express. This is Wednesday, the 14th of August, 2019. Tony Blair in US paedophile Jeffrey Epstein's little black book. Now, I'd like to point out that maybe he's in that little black book because they just want to meet up for other reasons. You know what I mean? But it could be something else. But who knows? But just that he's in the little black book doesn't prove anything. But we're here just reading out the articles, and you can make up your own minds here. The former Prime Minister was one of 301 British names and featured alongside Sir Richard Branson, Sir Mick Jagger, Prince Andrew, and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Epstein was... See, there, I mean, you could look at that 2 ways. One, it could say it's not just, like you said, Craig, it's not just men, it's women as well. Or on the other hand, he might just be on there because, he's going to number to try and get hold of. Prince Andrew might be a difficult person to contact by mobile phone, so maybe he has
get hold of the ex.
Do you know where he is? Hello, Sarah. can Andrew come round to my island to play? Who knows? It could be that. But Epstein was found dead in his cell in a Manhattan jail where he was being held without bail awaiting trial for allegedly abusing dozens of underage girls as young as 14 in New York and Florida. I remember us doing our first ever podcast years part of my Eastbourne Comedy Festival with Will Franken. Do you remember where we before he died we were on camera saying there's no way this guy will live, and we never put that footage out for one reason or another because I can't remember why we never got around to it now. I think that was back in the days where we were actually working.
Busy gigging.
But we were all over that.
On it.
Yeah, so and there's video footage of me and Craig going, yeah, I'll be amazed if this guy sees trial. And sure enough, within a couple of weeks, he's gone. So that's why I thought we'd do this one, get it out there now.
Before Ghislaine passes along there.
So there, I should add this for reasons of, all the evidence being there. There is no suggestion the names listed in the Little Black Book, which is now in the hands of the FBI, were involved in any wrongdoing or even met Epstein. So that's important to put that line.
I consider them part of the the collage of the background noise. Similar to the people who are seen photographed with him, which are of course multitude and many. That whole creating an atmosphere of pageantry to then have the compromat operation going on the side. So the more celebrities that you have coming through the door and making it look like everybody's like-minded and on board with the things to come later, which include compromising people with underage kids and filming them doing it, of course. So, mainly in the townhouse in the Les Wexner hand-me-down $77 million New York Batcave. I think to me, Jim, that's what was going on. That whether it was the Black Book or whether it was like the photos that you see or the videos that you see of Trump hanging out with Epstein, that was all part of it. To have lots of celebrity around, but only certain high officials or celebrities were then brought into the various studios to have their lives put into a blackmail.
I know that Elon Musk says that Ghislaine Maxwell photobombed him, and I looked at the photo. It does look like a photobomb. He's not. The arm's not round her. He doesn't seem to have anything to do with that. And in fairness, I mean, it could be found quite easily that if someone was to go back and look at our back in the days when we were gigging, Craig, people sometimes come up to us.
Couple of me with Princess Diana in the back there,
I'm just saying that people come up and go, "Can I get a photo with you?" I mean, more so than to you than to me, but it's possible that if anyone was to look round at anyone's past and really go, you could go, "Did you know who you had your arm round there?" or something like that. So let's, in the interest of fairness, that
yes, absolutely,
there is always that possibility as well.
That said, you brought it up. The Elon Musk connection to Epstein is unsavory, to say the least, and there's more, I think, going on there than has been poked around at in the media. That's one to watch, as far as I'm concerned. He seems to have got himself a bye from recriminations, and I personally think there's more there, but I'm not going to speak out of turn without knowing.
Without those sources, but there's enough there to look out. So bearing in mind what we just said, that it's possible that who knows, you've been photoed with, you meet at parties, you have a few drinks, who was that guy, all of that goes on. So let's not start throwing mud without proof. However, these next few paragraphs are interesting, to say the least.
Here we go.
So the contacts also included celebrities such as Simon Le Bon, the late Sir David Frost, supermodel Naomi Campbell, socialite Tamar Beckwith, Jonathan Dimbleby, Lode Grossman, and numerous lords and ladies. And again, you exchange numbers at parties. Yeah, we'll hook up. You might have no idea who he is. However, there's some interesting ones coming up here. Mr. Blair is recorded once in the book, while former cabinet Minister Peter Mandelson has 10 entries, including one marked direct line,
more
one
mobile
for home,
drug dealer,
and another for country home. So
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a fleet meeting. Blair, to be fair, only once in the book. You can put that. Who knows who I've exchanged phone numbers with over the years, but 10, including
Pretty wild.
direct line home and country home, is interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
However, there are more than 10 for Prince Andrew. There are 16 numbers for Prince
Wow.
Andrew, including a mobile number,
Yeah.
one marked as Palace X Directory, one for Balmoral, the Queen's Scottish residence, where the Prince invited Epstein, and one marked Sand for Sandringham. Epstein also recorded 18 numbers for Prince Andrew's former wife, Sarah Ferguson, who accepted £15,000 from the paedophile to help pay debts. Now,
Okay.
that's not a chance meeting at a party, 15 grand.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that,
that's so
that
mucky. That's just so mucky.
Yeah. The book is also said to contain contacts of Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of Robert Maxwell, including her extended family, friends, and brief acquaintances. Prosecutors believe Epstein orchestrated a network of students who were lined up by other young women and then forced to satisfy the hedge fund billionaire's wishes. His private Caribbean hideaway, known as Paedophile Island, was raided by FBI agents last night. US Attorney General William Barr has vowed justice will be done despite Epstein's death.
You got
And
a
of
date
course,
on that one again, Jim? Do you have
yeah,
a
yeah,
date on it?
sure.
What's that?
It is that's the Express, and
Yeah.
that is the Wednesday, the 14th of August.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you see how late in the game that is, that the FBI got to Epstein's Island, it's just unbelievable that they even speak about that like it's some some coup in the investigation. By the time the FBI got to is it Little St. James, Epstein's orgy island, he'd already poured cement in different passages, and there were rubbish burns, and clearly the place had been cleared out. And the idea that that had happened without the knowledge of the FBI, or without without the tacit approval of, is just, we don't know that, but it's pretty embarrassing, to say the least. I think as well they dragged their heels in getting to the ranch in New Mexico. If you look back on the records, it just, there was so much publicly shown that like drone footage, particularly of the island, that was like, I'm not going to say months, but it was way ahead of the FBI. So it just, you've got the FBI that's broken into the apartment in New York. They've taken into their possession all kinds of apparently clearly marked footage. So not just like tapes and DVDs of people in compromised situations with underage children or underage like women, that they just have sat on this evidence. This is why I have trouble with this whole thing, Jim. The idea that, and I have heard other pundits as well. This isn't only my broken arrow crazy opinion on it. The idea that this is all above board, and that the FBI is like working hard to save these abuse victims further trauma, is just, it's just not borne out by the evidence. The FBI appears in many people's and my own opinion to be working its own ends. It seems almost like they're working to find out what other people know, so that they either absorb that knowledge, that evidence, for their own purposes, I would say, rather than like to in any way enforce a law. Rather than be working for the benefit of the accusers. And that includes, because now we're in a place where I think they've only got 3 accusers of Ghislaine at the moment, of which there's like multitudes of them. So, there, or were anyway. So, the fact that the FBI has got all this evidence and has arrested nobody, Jim, other than Ghislaine, as far as we have to know, aside from, there are many people that think that finally tracking her down in New Hampshire, when her phone wasn't particularly cryptic, and many of her connections, of her electronics connections, weren't that cryptic. When you think that, like, if the FBI is looking for you, Jim, pretty sure they'd have found her a lot quicker than they did if they were actually looking that hard. And now to see the case they presented, including, I think you'll probably bring up in mainstream media, the judge's instructions to destroy certain aspects of the case against Epstein, and that happened just in front of the arrest of Ghislaine. We're just in a I don't know if I put it across properly. I don't believe the FBI at all. If I, people that still think the FBI is like out there doing the Lord's work, trying to like, bust bad wrongdoers or whatever, I'm not in that camp. As far as I'm concerned, they're just another compromat operation that either are aware of or were aware of Epstein's compromat operation, or felt that it was competition in the way that, like, the same as drug dealing. The last thing the government likes is competition. So my position would be that's what the FBI's involvement is here. They want to know what Ghislaine knows so that they know it, not so that they can like help kids. Because if they wanted to help kids, there's a billion ways they could have done it before now.
Yeah, there's two
It's
schools of thought,
suspicious.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I certainly agree. I certainly agree with you that if the feds want to find someone and they're not in a cave in
Yeah.
Afghanistan, oh, and by the way, I don't buy the whole Bin Laden thing.
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an example.
Funny reference to use.
Yeah, I just as soon as I said it, I thought
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
probably not.
That's a bad example.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I get
but
you.
yeah, you get where I'm going with that. If they
And
want to find someone,
a big signature of how little interested they were and have been is the lag time that it took them to get to Epstein's Island and do any type of peripheral investigation. And when they finally did actually make the effort to go there, there was nothing but like, ashes to be found. And if that wasn't by design, I just, to me, that was one of the early things, Jim, that just made me feel quite cynical once again towards these presumed law enforcement officials.
I agree. There is every who knows?
Yeah,
I would like to see justice done,
sure.
but my as soon as the Epstein, yeah, he killed himself. Nothing to see here came out. I thought, this smells of a controlled burn. Where it's okay. Right, who are we going to scapegoat? Who are we going to isolate? We've been caught here. We do need to get rid of some dead wood, but let's put a little ring around it so the fire doesn't spread too far. A
Yeah.
controlled burn of a few key people. Put the
Yeah.
deal in place. Yeah. But according to the New York Post,
Oh yeah.
so there's a reason for that possible delay.
Oh yeah. Is there legitimate? What was it?
Yeah. Well. Oh,
They didn't
who
know where
knows
it
if
was.
it's legit.
They couldn't find their sat nav down in Langley.
Yeah.
Anybody know where a
Coronavirus
map of the
force.
Caribbean is? Well, if you could get it to us in the next few months, that'd be good. We gotta wander on down there at some point.
Yeah, coronavirus forced feds to delay Ghislaine Maxwell arrest. Sources. This is by
Oh,
Eric Colonna and Bruce Golding on July the 2nd. Federal authorities knew for months where alleged Jeffrey Epstein, Madam Ghislaine Maxwell, was hiding out, but couldn't arrest her in an underage sex trafficking scheme until Thursday, thanks to the coronavirus pandemic, law enforcement sources told the Post. Investigators spent months tracking the movements of Maxwell, 58, and knew that she used an LLC to mask her December purchase of a rural hideout in the tiny New Hampshire town of Bradford, where she was nabbed by FBI agents, sources said. So apparently it's all. However, having said that, she was well known from August to be involved in that. Her name was springing up from the August articles I just read out. And as far as I'm aware, lockdown didn't really begin until January. So you can't blame the coronavirus for the latter end of 2019, can you? Really?
no.
But on the flip side, when you look at the FBI when they bring cases against the mafia in New York, some of those cases take 5 to 7 years to bring
Yeah.
all the RICO predicates and all that kind of stuff together.
That's true.
So, and we do know that government isn't exactly the most efficient engine on the planet, do we?
Yeah. But we also know that the government works with mafia as well, as much as there's the potential that they're working with. Well, why would people who are accused as Mossad agents be not working with other intelligence services. It's asinine. I will use the word to suggest that there's not likelihood of prior crossovers of relations before this.
Yeah.
They
So
call the Mossad and the CIA two cheeks of the same ass. And if you don't think that if you're in one, that the other one isn't either aware of your behaviors or has no way to synchronize them with the FBI, it's just we're living in fantasy land if you're believing that there's no potential of crossover there.
mm, so will we get a genuine investigation? Will it be a controlled burn? We're yet to
Yeah.
see. So we've got an article from the Mail online now, and this is from the 3rd of July by Jennifer Smith. Anonymous accuser says she'll testify that evil Ghislaine Maxwell raped her 20 to 30 times, starting from when she was 14, and claims she was forced to abort Jeffrey Epstein's baby. The unnamed woman told Fox News that Ghislaine was a rapist who attacked her with Epstein dozens of times in the early 90s. The woman alleges that it resulted in her becoming pregnant when she was 16. She says that she had to get an abortion and that Ghislaine and Epstein then gang raped her afterwards. The woman is not one of those involved in the indictment against Maxwell. She said she would be willing to testify in court that Maxwell is a rapist. Maxwell is in custody in New Hampshire, awaiting her first court appearance.
Yeah,
In an interview with Fox News, the woman whose identity was protected called Maxwell a rapist and says she was willing to testify in court that she sexually abused her. So I'm all for her being kept in some sort of witness protection program, just so long as in court we get a chance to see who are, because like I said, I believe in justice even for the likes of Maxwell, and everyone has the right to face their accusers and go, and build a defense against it. So that sounds like good from my perspective, that they're going to keep her anonymous until the court where she will come forward and actually, because I don't think you should have anonymous accusers of anyone. I think that just opens the door for a massive I hate to use the word. I hate to use the word in it, but a massive rape of justice. So, but that's good. I think keep her secret to begin with, but I think everyone must name themselves if they're going to accuse someone in court or something. They should go, "This is who I am, and this is what my story is." So
that's fair.
That's
I
fair.
know
But
there's a lean away from that, but yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. So loading up our next article here, and just bear with us today. The
internet monkey's slow on his wheel, is he?
Yes. Well, to be fair, he's powering Skype as well at the same time.
Oh,
so,
yes. Let me adjust the stone up my arsehole.
Ow! There you go. That's better than any advert.
Yeah.
It really is having trouble loading at the moment. So let me see if I can, whether it's article specific, and I might go on to another one. While that's loading.
Oh, I was going to tell you as well, I've just found out, and much to my chagrin, and then probably positive in my life, I've just recently started using a VPN and have found that it won't load BBC articles of all things, Jim. So blessing in disguise. Weirdly, I was mystified by it. I had to use another phone to try and bring up the same article that I was looking at, and I thought, why will it not load on my phone? And then did another bit of searching and realized, that there's some restriction that the BBC puts on to, I guess, keep their UK news for UK customers. I guess they don't want rerouted technology or connections. So
the article isn't loading at all. I think it was basically saying that Maxwell was going to the same jail that Epstein was, but without that article, I can't really.
As well. So exactly into the exact same place that Epstein was in grave danger, And I wrote some bit about it last week on Facebook, I think, Jim, just because it was incredulous to me that it's just like she's just down the block from where her associate, Mr. Epstein, died or was murdered. It couldn't be more macabre. And all the same people in charge. Yeah, I think that's what I wrote. That like what could go right rather than what could go wrong. It's just like she's exactly in as compromised a position as he was in exactly the same ways, with exactly the same people involved, who are as exactly motivated to be uh, uh, compromised in their dealings with her. It's the furthest thing from the potential of fair justice being served. She's aside from I mean, you can move yourself away from being a torturous person to think that she just needs to be now abused because she's in custody. The simple fact is that she doesn't deserve the trauma, the torture that she must be feeling of knowing that at any minute the exact same people that were a threat to her associate will very likely be the ones to kill her.
They open up the jail cell and inside there's a white chalk body mark,
Yes,
and
exactly.
she looks at it. The way they're all laying out there, that body form looks, familiar. But who knows?
Imagine how traumatic that could be for her, though, Jim. To be like, to know exactly the layout of the jail and where Epstein died, and then she'll be in that same building with the same people in charge, with the same reasons to be worried about the information she holds.
I'll say it now. If she gets if she has an accident,
yeah, sure.
There's no way they can say that it's a suicide. It's going to have to be a lone gunman theory. Surely it's going to have to be some crazy bitch high on meth, shivved her. It's going to have to be that story. And then in 6 months' time, you'll find out that the person that did the shivving, got a load of money in their accounts from all these weird people. Do you know what I mean? That's how I would predict something like this goes down. There's no way they can do another suicide job. The world didn't believe it the first time.
I can't. I think they're bolder and bolder, Jim.
Do you know what I mean? I think if she has an accident, and I'm not predicting she will, because I got a feeling that my gut tells me this might be more of a controlled burn than a real.
Yeah, right.
But we'll see.
I see that also.
So I don't think there'll be a need to have a meet with an accident. Like you say, they've had a year to, okay, who's going to go down, who isn't going to go. Do you know what I mean? It's been a year for this plan. I see no reason for her to have an accident if it's a controlled burn, and she knows who to grass up, and she knows who to keep her mouth quiet on. That's what my gut
instinct tells you. Yeah.
May occur. But if it is a genuine investigation and they do want her to have an accident, then I think it will be a crazy meth head shivving lone gunman theory job. I don't think they'll ever see it, but who knows?
Yeah.
So our next article here, Bill Gates met with Jeffrey Epstein many times despite his past. And that is from the New York Times. And I can't read any more from that because I'm
paywall.
New York Times. Yeah. And the next one is from May the 15th, 2020. This is the New York Post. So the other one was the Times. This is the Post. No, Bill Gates didn't repeatedly visit Jeffrey Epstein's island. Viral claims circulating on social media claim that billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates has traveled to Jeffrey Epstein's island multiple times. While Gates and Epstein had met in the past, this claim, based on flight logs recently subpoenaed, is untrue. One example reads, flight records confirm that Bill Gates went to Epstein's child sex trafficking island 17 times. It's a fact, not a theory. Following his arrest on July the 6th, 2019, financier Jeffrey Epstein pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking charges involving underage girls at his mansions on Manhattan's Upper East Side and in Palm Beach, Florida. Or FLA, I think that's Florida. He had escaped federal prosecution by pleading guilty in 2008 to Florida state prostitution charges, which is what you said. He pleaded guilty. An agreement now widely considered too lenient. Oh, what are the odds? Epstein was found dead in his jail cell on August the 10th. The financier once counted President Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and Britain's Prince Andrew as friends. They have not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing. The private planes used by Epstein to travel to his island in the Caribbean, Little St. James in the US Virgin Islands, how ironic, has been referred to in the media as the Lolita Express, following the accusations of him trafficking minors. In July 2019, the New York Times reported that the pilots that flew Epstein's private planes, including to his island in the Caribbean, had released records of flight logs, including names who had travelled on the plane. Copies of these flight logs can be seen online, uploaded by Gawker.com and factcheck.org. Reuters found no mention of Bill Gates in the first collection of flight logs and only one instance in the second. The log shows Bill Gates noted as a passenger on March the 1st, 2013, from Teterboro Airport in New Jersey to Palm Beach International Airport, Florida, not to Little St. James.
Yeah.
So Mr. Gates, who had his own 40 million private jet, hadn't been aware it was Mr. Epstein's plane. So I think what they're saying is he flew on Epstein's plane, despite having his own
not
one,
to the island.
but not to the island. So let's get it straight from the horse's mouth here, shall we? So we've got an article from CNBC that I'm going to be loading up. And important to point out that Epstein was done in 2008, and all of that hoo-ha occurred, where he was going, what plane it was, but that was 5 years after he'd been done. So that's so whatever.
Is my pedophile friend out of prison yet? Great. I'm gonna lift on his plane, and we'll find out that he was on the island. Of course.
So CNBC. This is by Kevin Bruninger. Bill Gates says, I made a mistake meeting with convicted sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein. Microsoft founder and multi-billionaire Bill Gates said Wednesday that he made a mistake meeting with a accused child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Gates, speaking at New York Times Dealbook Conference in New York City, said he thought his discussions with the now deceased money manager would bring in billions of dollars for his global health efforts. Epstein had amassed a long list of famous and wealthy contacts, including former President Bill Clinton and President Donald Trump, years before he died in Manhattan federal lockup. Microsoft founder and multi-billionaire Bill Gates said Wednesday that he made a mistake meeting with convicted sex criminal and wealthy financier Jeffrey Epstein to discuss philanthropy. Oh, they were going to help people. That's why they met up. So, yeah. So it goes on about that. So there you go. There is a connection there, but Bill Gates said it was all to do with philanthropy. So yeah, of course. We shall see, won't we? We'll see what Ghislaine Maxwell says about that, and and it may, if our fears are founded, it might be no, that's all above board. He's not not in the controlled burn, or he might be, exactly. He might just have met with a known paedophile to discuss making the world a better place. Who knows? It's possible. Yeah. So this is from the it's loaded now. So Ghislaine Maxwell locked up in the same scandal-plagued Manhattan jail where Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. So we don't need to go into that. That's just the article's finally loaded up. Yeah. So speaking of confirming what we know, or in this case, what we suspect.
Yes.
I've got an article loading up here from the Daily Mail again, I believe it is. A lot of people criticise the Daily Mail, but they've been, I'm loading more articles from these people up than before. Put on the Daily Mail. They seem to be
Peter Hitchens has been doing yeoman's work on, first of all, the Duma gas attack suspicions in Syria, and then most recently with the COVID-19 nonsense. So, him alone is a pillar within the media at the minute, and it represents the Mail on some days. What are you going to do?
Journalism's like any other group of people, including comedians. You get good ones, you get bad ones, you get ones that talk shit, you get ones that are accurate. So it's up to the cruise audience to decide which sort of comedians we are. So this is by Marley Fang for the Daily Mail. And this is Jeffrey Epstein's brother says the paedophile financier was murdered and demands an investigation into his death after the coroner ruled it a suicide. So Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, insists he was murdered and is demanding a probe into the circumstances of his death. Mark hired his own pathologist to oversee autopsy, which concluded Jeffrey died by homicidal strangulation, but the coroner's office deemed it a suicide. So again, you've got, whenever you're looking for cover-ups, do you have like a 180 between experts? That's usually a step, step one into smelling a rat, isn't it? Is do we have two experts with totally different opinions? 180. So I believe my brother was murdered. I want to know what kind of investigation they did. I have no indication that there was one, Mark said. And this is from only the 6th of July. So Jeffrey Epstein's brother is insisting that the paedophile financier was murdered and is demanding an investigation into his death after the coroner ruled he died by suicide in jail while awaiting child trafficking charges. Mark Epstein says he does not believe his brother committed suicide in his Metropolitan Correctional Centre jail cell on August the 10th, citing how 3 bones in his neck were broken in an unusual fashion. I believe my brother was murdered. I want to know what kind of investigation they did. I have no indication that there was one, Mark Epstein said to The Sun. They said the cause of death was pending. Just 5 days later, they said it was a suicide, he added. The New York medical examiner ruled Epstein's death was a suicide by hanging after he was found with sheets wrapped around his neck. He died 2 weeks after he was placed on suicide watch at the jail. Dubious of the results, Epstein's brother hired pathologist Michael Baden to oversee the autopsy. Baden says Epstein died of homicidal strangulation rather than suicidal hanging. Attorney General William Barr's investigators also concluded that Epstein took his own life, but Epstein's brother insists the probe missed key evidence. I hired a very well-respected forensic pathologist, Dr. Michael Baden, who is an expert on people being killed and the deaths being written off as a suicide, to make an independent evaluation. So Dr. Baden says when you hang yourself and your feet are dangling, you are likely to break bones. But he says he has never seen 3 broken bones in kind of soft hanging that supposedly killed Jeffrey, he added. Epstein's legal team voiced similar suspicion over his death, noting that he had a bail hearing coming up and he had agreed to be on house arrest and to pay for armed guards to assure he remained in custody. The disgraced financier's death was a huge blow in the investigation to his child trafficking charges, where he is accused of procuring underage girls for his rich and powerful friends and himself.
Yeah, he wasn't on suicide watch when he died, though. Oddly, he'd been put on it, but then had been taken off it. I'm surprised they didn't make note of that.
Yeah,
that was another just suspicious point along the way, right? But,
I think we'll be covering that. I've got something to say about that as well. We've got coming up. But our next article will be from the Telegraph exclusive: how Ghislaine Maxwell and Kevin Spacey relaxed at Buckingham Palace as guests of Prince Andrew. This is by Robert Bendeck. And again, I need to subscribe to that. But I think the photo has been circulating around on social media quite a bit.
Sitting in the palace chairs in the thrones.
Yeah, when someone bails out your ex-wife for 15 grand.
Yeah. Oh, my favor.
Yeah, why not let them take a picture on the throne? So, and who better than with Kevin Spacey?
The old Spacester, sex pest himself.
So, we've got an article from the Independent loading up. Oh no, I do apologise. We've already loaded that article up. Bring up the next one. You got anything to comment on those articles? while my internet's going silly
No,
buggers crazy.
that's just known info of Epstein's. Uh, I find the involvement of Mark Epstein suspicious in its own way. I think he was the executor of the will, and I believe a chunk of money's gone missing from that also. So there's been I think there was something to do. You may be able to find something to do with Ghislaine's involvement in the estate of Epstein. Which she was seemingly able to do while being hunted around the world. So I don't know how many people involved can be considered to be coming from an uncompromised place. Not many, I would imagine.
I found another article about Kevin Spacey and Ghislaine Maxwell. So rather than one behind a paywall, smirking socialite Ghislaine Maxwell sat on the Queen's throne next to actor Kevin Spacey during a tour of Buckingham Palace. A photo has emerged showing Maxwell reclining in a mock royal pose in a ceremonial red velvet chair as Spacey smiles and waves while pretending to be the Duke of Edinburgh. He said the picture was taken in 2002 when the pair were on a private tour of the central London Palace organised by Prince Andrew for former US President Bill Clinton. It emerged after Maxwell, 58, was arrested by FBI in the US town. Blah, 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 blah. And it goes on to say that Buckingham Palace declined to comment.
But just like they declined to comment on the kid that fell out of the second floor of their fucking palace. What? We didn't see that. That's one of the weirdest things that's ever happened on Earth. They like to decline comment a lot, and they've also suggested that the photograph with Guthrie and Andrew is likely to be photoshopped also. So they're in delusion world.
Yeah,
they've decided to go that way.
So our next article, which was talking about this is from the 10th of January 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to bring this one up after we've just gone through the the broken neck and all that kind of the broken bones in the neck.
The hyoid bone.
Yeah. And what you just said about he was on suicide watch. So by that, there's suicide watch, and then there's watching someone commit suicide, isn't there? Get the popcorn out. So
of course I watched.
Yes. So this is BBC, 10th of January. Jeffrey Epstein, jail CCTV erased by technical errors. Surveillance video from disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein's first suspected suicide attempt was destroyed by accident, prosecutors say.
Oops.
Silly people.
Oopsies.
Yeah. But you or I could get prosecuted for putting on the ticking the wrong box on some sort of tax form or something like that. But something like this, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. U.S. prosecutors say the jail mistakenly saved footage from the wrong cell. Epstein, a convicted sex offender, first tried to kill himself in July last year, then hanged himself in jail in August while awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. He had pleaded not guilty. See, there was I heard interesting stories about that first suicide attempt as well. I'll do a go on that. So soon after Jeffrey Epstein's death in August, 2 of the CCTV cameras outside his cell had malfunctioned and were being examined by the FBI, US media reported. So we've got the biggest case on earth. The first time it's we've deleted it, and the second time, right, this is the most important prison on earth. Put him in the cell with the dodgy CCTV cameras outside. What, the one with the one dodgy CCTV camera and the one that works? No, I want him in the cell where both the CCTV cameras
and then afterwards I want you to capture the wrong cell's footage.
Yeah. Epstein was found semi-conscious in his prison cell with injuries to his neck on the 25th of July. After this incident, he was placed on suicide watch. Eventually, Epstein was moved to a different cell where he died on the 10th of August. 2 prison guards have since been accused of failing to check on him during his time and falsifying records to say that they had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just don't believe
Unreal, isn't it?
this was a suicide.
Yeah.
I really
Yes.
don't.
Every
And
step of the way, every branch on the way down of the suspicious tree,
yeah, every branch.
every branch.
There have been ongoing questions over the July recording, which was initially deemed missing and was said to have been located by the jail staff. A
Yeah.
letter filed by Assistant US Attorneys Jason Swergold and Maureen Comey said the footage contained on the preserved video was for the correct date and time, but captured a different tier than the one where cell 1 was located, New York City media report.
Wild.
The requested video no longer exists on the backup system and has not since at least August 2019 as a result of technical errors.
Sure.
Oh, I think the cruise listeners know where
Yeah.
we're going with that. So, I mean, what more can you really,
Just be as cynical as always.
yeah. What more can you really say about that? I don't think saying that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself is a conspiracy theory. I think suggesting that he was murdered is more along akin to reality denial, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so we've got one from the 3rd of July. This is RT. Now get Clinton and Prince Andrew, says Rose McGowan after tweeting pic of Weinstein, Epstein, and Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell is the latest in a series of high-profile people to be accused of sex crimes. And according to Me Too champion Rose McGowan, the time is ripe to put not just her, but Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew behind bars.
Wow. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, there's that one. There's also another article that I'm going to have to bring up. I'm going to have to duck go it as well, because this is only from a couple of days ago.
Oh, yeah.
Something to do with Prince Andrew's accuser, Prince Andrew. It's Andrew accuser meningitis. Something like to do with bacterial meningitis.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we go. And this was why we wanted to do it. It was a good idea that you had, Craig, actually leave it to the end of the week to see what comes out during the week.
Yeah.
So
like
this is
it's a good ramp day, catches the whole catchment of the news of the week.
Yeah.
We go
So
weekend.
This wasn't the article. Here we are. So yeah, I got the date. This wasn't coming out this week. This was the other one, wasn't it? So this is the Mirror. Chris Kitchling, 14th of June. Prince Andrew accuser Virginia Roberts in hospital with bacterial meningitis. Virginia Roberts, 36, claimed she was forced to be a sex slave for paedophile and financier Jeffrey Epstein and some of his associates.
Yeah.
And had sex with Prince Andrew on 3 occasions.
Mm-hmm.
The woman who claimed she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew when she was only 17. Legal age of consent in Britain is 16, isn't it? So
no, only if you're under 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're over 18, then they have to be over 18. That's the trick. But don't, and that's the same in the States, I believe, as well. But don't tell that to old Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah. Or that's or Woody Allen, or we're just probably why these things are so pervasive in society, because there's just so many scummy dudes doing it.
Mm.
When you're 35 and you're dating a 17-year-old, there's just no other way to describe that as scummy.
She said she recently. So Ms. Roberts, 36, announced she has been diagnosed with bacterial meningitis as she shared a photo taken in her hospital bed. 2 months after being tested for coronavirus, the American mum, who now lives in Cairns, Australia, with her husband Robert and 3 children, tweeted, "Back in hospital again, this time bacterial meningitis. went to the rainforest for the weekend with the fam and came back with something from the jungle. So
Right.
Miss Roberts, who also known by a married surname, you know, I'm like, no, Giraffe, suggested her immune
Agree.
system may have been compromised with so much going on in her life. So
Yeah.
there you go. So it's not like she was walking along London Bridge and felt a little jab in her thigh,
No.
and then
No.
someone in a dark suit went,
No.
"Have a nice day," and wandered off very
Pretty
quickly.
Bulgarian.
Yeah,
Oh.
so she did go to the jungle. So um, so
Well, her luck hasn't changed.
yeah, and some more articles. No, I think we're good on that. So I think yeah, that's pretty much brought us to our Ghislaine Maxwell section.
Yeah.
Uh, any comments you want to make on the whole thing while I load up our
No, I just
stuff
more and
on
more
masks?
talking about it now. I'm just more and more convinced of the likelihood that she'll top herself. Unfortunately, or be topped. You know, it's just there's no reason to think that that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, how you know we spoke about it before Epstein's death. Even like you couldn't imagine how they could do it, and they just brazenly did all the things that Jim just mentioned. You know, cameras not working, more than one of them, footage from the wrong cell, guards asleep, uh, uh, forensic evidence that indicates murder rather than suicide, and it just, none of this matters. You know, the guy in charge of the prison's dad was part of the web of the underworld of the person who ends up being killed or you know killing themselves or being murdered. It just there
Oh,
ain't
I
no
don't think
bit
we
of it
covered
that ain't
that.
fishy.
Well, I
What's
don't
that?
think we covered that. Something that, you know, the prison guards. This is new to me, so I'll
What's
bring it
that?
up to see if we got a sort. You were saying there's something about the prison owner or something. That's new
Oh
to
yeah,
me.
yeah. Well, William Barr, being the Attorney General of the states, it's his jurisdiction to run the Met.
Oh,
The
okay. No, sorry, I thought I got the wrong end of the stick. You were
yeah,
making out that it's private,
you know,
the
basically.
owner of it. Okay, that's good.
This,
Good, we
the
clarified
spiders got
that.
another fly. William Barr's now got Ghislaine. He's already topped Epstein, or you know, has been the umbrella agency that is in charge of the competence that allowed either the murder or suicide to take place. And now Ghislaine's in exactly the same spider web.
I'm gonna make the prediction that she isn't gonna top herself.
No, you don't
I
think,
don't.
huh? You
No,
think
I
they'll
don't
just
think so
turn
at
out
all.
slow? They'll
I
turn it.
think I think I give a 10% chance of a lone gunman shivving in the showers from someone who swears blind there was nothing more to it, and then you look back at the financial records over the next year or so, and you'll think, that's interesting. I give a percent chance of that. I give a 20% chance of this being for real, and I give the remaining 70 to it being a controlled burn to bring down a few key
Yeah.
scapegoats.
What do you think of the connection of that she says she has the compromised video of the prince? Have you heard of that?
Uh, Hang on, that as far as I'm aware,
Hmm?
because that's actually an important article that I should bring up. That wasn't her saying that. That
Is
was
it not?
a friend. Wasn't that her friend saying
I'm
that
not
she did
sure.
that? Let's bring up the actual article so
Oh,
we don't go down the realm of
yeah, 'cause
conspiracy
I didn't
theory.
think
God
anything
forbid.
was right. Yeah.
Maxwell friend Andrew tapes. So again, I'm looking for this on DuckDuckGo, not Google. So New York Post, yeah, and Daily Mail, and I'll add these to the archive. Good point there, Craig.
Yeah.
Um, well spotted. Now this is going to overload the laptop because I've already loaded up the mask things there to go. So some time on this. So the first articles I've got here are from the New York Post.
Yeah.
It's from the 7th of July. Yeah, I was right. So, yeah. So, this is by Jeroen Steinberg on the 7th of July. Ghislaine Maxwell has copies of Jeffrey Epstein's sex tape, ex-friend says. Accused Jeffrey Epstein procuress Ghislaine Maxwell will use her secret stockpile of the late paedophile's sex tapes as an insurance policy to save herself from federal charges, her friend said in a new report. And it might not just be,
Yeah.
saving
The
herself from
prince.
federal charges. There's what you call a dead man switch,
I was going to say it's a
named
dead man
after.
switch. Yes.
Yeah, I've got a friend that's a London Underground driver, and he explained to me what a dead man switch
Yeah,
is
right. The
in terms
brake
of
that
London
comes on.
Underground, not just saying Maxwell. Yeah, but you've got to
Yeah,
keep your hand
the
on it the
brake
whole
that comes on
time.
if you take your hand off it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
if you die, the train will,
yeah,
you'll,
yes. Or in this
assuming that you
case,
don't have, assuming you don't have rigor mortis,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
that would be
yeah.
that would be the Grim Reaper's ultimate joke.
Joke, yeah,
But
exactly.
so the analogy moving over to this would be
Yes.
if you're dead, someone somewhere has been paid that you trust has been paid money to release all of this footage. Should
Yep.
your corpse be
Yep.
found hanging with 3 broken bones when the pathologist says there's no reason for it to be with that hanging.
Yep.
So if that should be found, then it's released. But that relies on. I mean, you're going to need several people, I would have thought, because if you just put it in one person's hands, then can you imagine being the person
Yeah,
that has
you're
that
the one
footage?
definitely.
Can you can you imagine going and getting some sort of life insurance policy? You know,
Uh, you have
the
any liabilities?
yeah, the only thing that's going to put up your
Ghislaine Maxwell gave me a briefcase.
yeah,
said, said I got to take it down to the press if I ever see she's dead on air.
yeah.
Oh,
What's my monthly premium increase, please?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't afford it.
Yeah, the insurance people will be saying, well, it's not the most expensive insurance premium we've ever had. We're saving that for the person that becomes president and nominates Hillary Clinton as the vice president. But apart from that, yeah,
Well
that's
said.
our most most expensive package, sir.
Yes,
Other
yeah,
than that,
yeah.
so the former socialite who was arrested in New Hampshire last week was moved Monday to a Brooklyn lockup to await trial on 4 counts of. We're rereading a lot of the stuff in these articles. So, Christopher Mason, a TV host and journalist who has known Maxwell since the 1980s, has said he was told Epstein rigged his multiple homes with cameras and kept surveillance tapes of
Rick.
everyone and
Yeah,
everything that went on in them.
yeah.
Mason said she has access to the potentially compromising tapes. And now Maxwell's former pal told the Daily Mail that she will use those recordings as a way to beat the rap. Ghislaine has always been as cunning as they come. She wasn't going to be with Epstein all those years and not have some insurance, the ex friend told the news outlet. The
Fair enough.
secret stash of sex tapes I believe Ghislaine has squirreled away could end up being her get out of jail card if the authorities are willing to trade. She has copies of everything Epstein had. They could implicate some twisted movers and shakers, the former friend said. If Ghislaine goes down, she's going to take the whole damn lot of them with her. The
Good.
source continued. Not only did Epstein like to capture himself with underage girls on camera, he wanted to make sure he had something to hold over the rich and powerful men who took advantage of his sick largesse. I'll bet anything that once it comes out that Ghislaine has those tapes, these men will be quaking in their Italian leather boots, the person said. Ghislaine made sure that she socked away thumb drives of it all. She knows where all the bodies are buried, and she'll use whatever she had to save her own arse. Maxwell is accused of enticing. So, um, again, that that makes me. Uh, to me, my interpretation of that is that's the media trying to say when this story breaks, it's going to be everything once and for all. She's going to name every single person. And when it breaks out, I just got this funny feeling. I'm not making a prediction. I just think it's the most
Mhm.
probable outcome that you'll find it's woefully disappointing, missing out loads of names, and the media will sell it as the definitive be all, end all. Everything's done now. You don't need to cover it ever again. It's that's what I think is going to happen. I think it'll be a controlled burn, but I don't rule out that she'll take the whole team with her. And yeah, like I said,
Well, we'll see.
I've given. We'll see on that one, but
Yep.
um, and the
I think she's gonna get fed to the fishes.
yeah. What makes you think that?
Just because of exactly what you've said, that there's just too many people that stand to be affected by her squealing, and the very best thing that could happen for all of the darker forces that we're thinking are in the background and aren't being seen are her voice being silenced. Just like seemingly happened after Epstein's voice was silenced. So much unfinished business got buried, and she would be the end of the line, Jim. That. If they get her after they've got him, then you're not going to see any other periphery players. I don't think coming up to as big a splash on the radar.
Maybe we're both right. Maybe it will come out in a controlled burn. She'll swear blindly that this is all there is, and no real powerful figures are in there. A few scapegoats that they can afford to get rid of. Told the scapegoats will be told, you keep your mouth shut, or bad things will happen to you. And then a couple of months later, after she's done her deal and got away with it, she'll have a car accident or
Maybe
fast-acting cancer, or do you know what I mean? Maybe we're both right. Maybe we're both right. So, because that way, now we've let you go. Now give us the tapes. Thank you very much. And of course, what government wouldn't want those tapes? Because, forget about trying to cover up. What about trying to use them for your advantage as well? Not just prosecuting, but actually saying, now we're going to leave your name off the controlled burn, but you're going to need to do this for us. So what's to stop that occurring as well? For looking at it from that different angle.
Yeah, from an espionage point of view, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that brings us to the end of our Maxwell section.
Good luck, Ghislaine.
I don't wish her good luck. I wish the truth good luck.
Yes.
So for all our sakes, I think. So The Independent. This is by March the 4th. A little coronavirus. Chief Medical Officer tells public not to wear masks. Now, this is Chris Whitty, our Chief Medical Officer here, where myself and Mr. Campbell reside here in the UK. Instead advises people to regularly wash their hands. So England's Chief Medical Officer has warned the public wearing face masks will do little to combat the ongoing coronavirus outbreak. Professor Chris Whitty said to Sky News on Wednesday that wearing a face mask had almost no effect on reducing the risk of contracting the illness. Professor Whitty said, in terms of wearing a mask, our advice is clear, that wearing a mask, if you don't have the infection, reduces the risk almost not at all. So we do not advise that. But of course now, got to wear them on public transport. So a complete 180. And the government always says, we follow the science. Well, where's the science for either one of those? Because it's a complete 180. They're bad for you, do not wear them, or you have to wear them. I want to see the science on what caused that total 180 flip, because we're being told it's constantly led by the science. So
you're never going to see it.
Yeah. And we've got one from the Cambridge University Press, Epidemiology and Infection. This is by B.J. Cowling.
Ooh, like the sound of that. Sorry.
Influenza viruses circulate around the world every year. From time to time, new strains emerge and cause global pandemics. Many national and international further studies in controlled settings and studies of natural infection in healthcare and community settings are required to better define the effectiveness of face masks and respirators in preventing influenza things. So we've got the article there. It'll be for people to do their own research on that one. We've also got here an article that I'll load up from the New York Post. And this is from a sheriff who's advised he's not going to enforce any mask laws, because these mask laws are going in various parts around the world. And there's a sheriff
not
here.
in his county.
Yeah, apparently, according to, I bet you he gets re-elected, because I believe sheriffs are voted for in the United States. So I could be wrong, but so don't be a sheep. Washington sheriff urges residents to defy mask order. This is by Natalie O'Neill on June the 25th. So Washington state sheriff urged residents to defy Governor Jay Inslee's statewide mandate requiring people to wear masks in public, declaring, "Don't be a sheep," according to a report. He instead said people should break the coronavirus safety order during a speech in a church parking lot Tuesday, according to footage by the Daily Quad. And there's a video of doing. In case you guys didn't hear, Governor Inslee, in his infinite wisdom, has decided that over 100 and some odd days that we should all wear face masks inside and out. Snanza declared into a bullhorn while wearing a police uniform and no face cover. Here's what I say: don't be a sheep. Dozens of people gathered around him and are shown cheering, clapping, and waving American flags. The defiant pep rally came several hours after the Democratic governor ordered residents to wear face masks, both inside and out, or face a $1,000 fine and up to 90 days in jail.
Terrifying. Terrifying. It's a country at war, Jim.
It will be.
Yeah.
And I think it will be along party lines as well. I think you've more or less got, and it's funny because, the left, what I now call the extreme left, that doesn't represent all left. I'm consider myself on the left on a lot of issues, but it's now, the left are calling anyone that disagrees with them racists, and or anti-free people, and the right seems to be the one going free speech, anti-censorship, libertarianism, and stuff like that. So the right wing seems to be the least fascist of the two groups, really. And I think at the end of the day, people will really veer towards freedom, and I think the election result will prove that if it's free and fair one.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. So this is by Jacqueline Howard, again, March the 31st, and we're having to go back to that because they were all saying to begin with, don't wear masks. Apparently now that's all changed. Who stands, assuming, all the science has changed, I'd like to see.
I guess so.
We're being led by the science. I'd like to see the science for the change. So that's all I ask for. Who stands by recommendation to not wear masks if you are not sick or not caring for someone who is sick? So World Health Organization officials Monday said they still recommend people not to wear face masks unless they are sick with COVID-19 or caring for someone who is sick. There is no specific evidence to suggest that the wearing of masks by the mass population has any potential benefit. In fact, there's some evidence to suggest the opposite in misuse of wearing a mask properly or fitting it properly. That's by Dr. Mike Ryan, Executive Director at the World Health the WHO Health Emergencies Programme, said at a media briefing in Geneva, Switzerland on Monday. Wow. There also is an issue that we have a massive global shortage. Ryan said that masks and other medical supplies. So, and we've said this before, that there's those videos of doctors where they record the oxygen levels and masks wearing them.
I've seen a few.
And they were made it quite clear, not good.
Not good.
But if specifically if you're out jogging or exercising or something like that,
you might pass out.
Yeah, and there was also that
break your dumb teeth.
Yeah, there was also that article. I think we brought it up on one of our previous cruise shows. I think or maybe it was one of the articles that we never got around to because we're rabbiting. But they're finding a couple of people passed out in car crashes wearing a mask.
Oh, great!
They lived, but they've said basically,
they passed out.
Yeah, who knew oxygen was so essential?
Vital.
Yeah, there you go.
Weird.
Yes.
Weird that. Never would have guessed.
I mean, wearing them when you're driving. I saw someone wearing a mask when they were driving my own eyes yesterday afternoon, and I'm thinking, oh
you're
man,
the dumbest human on earth. You're as dumb can be. Look at you. I've also heard of people feeling or seeing erratic behavior while car drivers are fumbling with their masks and driving. Obviously, that's anecdotal. Probably never happened, but you can certainly see the potential for it to happen. If you're dealing with somebody who's wearing a mask in a car to begin with, the sky's the limit on what might happen after that. That's untoward.
So, I mean, judging by what we've read on the previous articles, they're kind of saying unless you're sick, don't wear them. So I suppose their possible reason would be, well, we don't know who's sick, so we want to make certain that we put a mask over the face.
Asymptomatic nonsense.
But bearing in mind, with the right zinc and the right vitamin D and all the kind of stuff we've covered on the show before, and the death rate once you take the care homes out of the equation, is the death rates. This will be our show number 2. We're going to be looking at that. We can just call it the numbers game. Our special show. We'll do it as and when.
Yes, right.
We're going to be looking at all these numbers, and basically it boils down to not a very high death rate if you're under 70 and healthy. Not a very high death rate at all. You know, somewhere we'll look at the exact, but isn't it something like thought to be three and
Infinitesimal.
yeah,
Yeah.
3 in 10 times the normal flu rate
Yeah.
or anything like that? Certainly nothing
Yeah.
to now be, by all means, keep the out of the nursing homes and take precautions there because that is, an unpleasant death rate. But for the general population, it now looks like as we predicted from Cruise episode number 1, there will be a diminishing point of returns in regarding of lives. So if
Yeah.
people are saying put on a mask because you don't know if you're ill, so therefore you don't know whose lives are being at risk. I think there's enough evidence to say economic collapse and oxygen deprivation could well do more harm than good.
And 35,000 pending likely deaths from at least from undiagnosed or late diagnosed cancers in the UK alone.
So I'm all in favour of saving human life. I just am not
all of them.
convinced that a lockdown or a mask is the way to do it. And at least
I'm
going back
convinced
to
it is.
March, the World
Yeah.
Health professionals, including our own chief medical officer, seem to say the same thing about
Yeah.
masks. But
not now.
not now.
How
Not
strange.
not now. The curve has been flattened. Now we do wear them.
Yeah.
So Texas lieutenants. On the plus side, though, Craig, if us comedians are forced to wear them to go back to back on the comedy clubs, I predict you'll see a massive rise in the number of comedians becoming ventriloquists.
Yeah.
So Texas, even I could be a good ventriloquist wearing a mask. So
I could do very good too.
I'll do.
The weird helps though. I
Yeah,
got the weird on.
We could do a double act, couldn't we? We could. We could. I could pretend to be Bill Gates, and I could have my puppets of Fauci with my hand up there. So and Neil Ferguson as well.
Yeah, and with Gabby, you can add Trump and Johnson to that.
There's a whole Edinburgh show.
A whole bag of puppets.
So this is by Nicole Cobbler, and it's from USA Today. Texas Lieutenant Governor says he's done listening to Dr. Fauci. I don't need his advice. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said he will no longer listen to Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of the nation's top infectious disease experts, as coronavirus cases and hospitalizations surge in Texas. Fauci said today that he's concerned about states like Texas that skipped over certain things. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We haven't skipped over anything. The only thing I'm skipping over is listening to him. So
nice. Front to the Fauci. To the Fauci.
Yeah. So
sorry, Jim. That's a cryptic. That's a basketball insult, by the way. I don't know if you ever got into that in the UK. Very common one in North American basketball. Have you heard of face?
I'm 5'6" on tiptoe. Basketball.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's a common insult in North American basketball where you put your hand over your face like this, and the insult is face. But Fauci was a basketball player of some repute prior to his medical career. So there you go, Mr. Fauci, right there. Face, Mr. Fauci, from the Texas governor.
So that's all the articles that I've got. I hope you've enjoyed our extra of Cruise. How long have we been recording for, Craig?
Well, I think with the preamble, we're in the neighborhood of about an hour and 25, so right on our normal episodes. But I think we'll cut out some because we've had some delays in bringing up information, and I've yawned a couple of times because I'm just I didn't get enough sleep last night. I got kids, leave me alone. But I did my very best to stay on target, but I just I'm gonna be carving some out, so we'll probably be close to the hour and 20.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for watching Cruise 15A, 15 and a half.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell and other falling masks. Thank you so much. We'll be back doing our usual show as ever, going out on Facebook UK time 6 p.m. YouTube. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Please like our social media pages, subscribe on YouTube, and please share the videos themselves on your walls of your social media pages. All of that stuff really, really does help. And a big thank you to all the people that listen. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this special. I thought we should knuckle down and because there was just so much to cover, it just needed a whole
Absolutely.
show on its own. These two things. So
And we missed
thank
so much during our regular shows, Jim.
yeah, yeah. It just we just you know we needed to get this one out there, I think. And our next special, I think we'll do the numbers game. I think we'll look at all the evidence of it. Again, there's so much that's been admitted. It's just when you put it together, the puzzle is quite clear. But as ever,
Yeah.
our cruise listeners, we always encourage you to think for yourself, ask your own questions. Don't listen to what these two
Yahoos.
comedian Yahoo. I what's the phrase I like to
What?
sometimes refer to us as?
No.
Uh,
No.
news repeater monkeys. Yeah.
Oh,
So that
nice. Great.
yeah, news repeater monkeys. Thanks ever so much for watching. Any closing comments, Craig?
No, that's spectacular. Thanks again for supporting us this far, and appreciate watching our extra special 15A, and hope to see you for episode 16 of the cruise.
Nice one. Thanks for watching.